Welcome to my latest installment of Take 5. Today, I'm fortunate to be joined by George Caldwell, adjunct instructor of piano and director of UB's jazz ensembles. One of the preeminent swing players in modern jazz, Professor Caldwell is Grammy Award-winning musician who is equally renowned as a performer, composer, band leader, and teacher. So hello, Professor Caldwell. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing fine. I feel like all these appraisals that you've given me are like, I just do what I do, you know. But thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. During these turbulent times, many of us have been turning to music to cope, heal, and lift our spirits. I'm curious to know what piece of music speaks to you these days and why?
Well, there's an Italian-American composer by the name of Henry Mancini who wrote a tune called Moon River. And it's one of my favorite of all time songs because the tone of it is specific, is uniquely American sounding somehow, and it's very beautiful, and it's sort of a metaphor for how time passes, and kind of how we all deal with the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, and yeah. So that song speaks to me of great depth at this time. Yeah.
Would you mind playing an excerpt for us?
I will gladly do so. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
You have had quite a storied career, touring internationally, conducting on Broadways, playing in the Count Basie and Duke Ellington orchestras, and alongside a long list of jazz greats. You have also made it a priority to teach our students and direct our jazz ensembles. What is it that draws you to the university?
Well, it's the urge to pass on what was given to me as a young, as a youngster. I was kind of taken under the wing of a piano player and well-known jazz musician in Memphis, Tennessee at the time. his name is Robert Garner, and his nickname was Honeymoon Garner because he sang and he had this very calm and beautiful voice and great guy. And anyway, he kept at me because I was totally focused as far as performing on classical music. In fact, that's where I got my degree and everything, my undergraduate degree. But he wanted me to take a look at jazz, and I loved it because I always listened to it, but I never believed that I could play it because I thought you had to have some kind of, I don't know, gland or something that made you able to do that. Well, that's what a lot of classical musicians think, I think. But anyway, but he convinced me that I could learn it, and he never charged me a cent. And as I went along, different people, different mentors, they all did the same thing. We didn't have the internet now like we do now, so you had to hear them or buy a record and then listen to the record and examine it.
When you were growing up, did you always want to be a musician?
Yes, I did.
At what time? I mean, we were 5, 4, 3. What time you thought that you're going to be a musician?
Well, my father was a university professor, and but he also was a musician. He played trumpet, piano, guitar, and baritone horn. And when I came along, he was playing mostly trumpet. But when I was about, I guess, 7 or 8, he started. I mean, he always had music playing around the house, always. He asked me if I wanted to study music. They took me, we moved, and we went to a little town called Holly Springs, Mississippi, anyway. And when we started, they took us to the music teacher at the school and she asked me, would you like to play piano? And I looked at my dad, and he said, like permission to do it. And I was like that. But he also turned me on to all this beautiful music. He was a music freak. He loved it, Sometimes I wonder if that was his real calling. Although he was a good, he was a good professor and everything. But he was in physics, so he dealt with the music of the spheres, I guess.
So he was a physics professor while he played music.
Yeah. Yes.
And so, but still, it's the family business in some sense. You're a professor as well, so.
Yeah, I guess so.
Live music has been put on pause due to the pandemic.
Yes.
How have you adopted?
Well, I've given me a lot of time to practice, which I needed. In fact, I've been practicing, I don't know, long hours again. It's kind of nice, but it's all my live gigs were canceled. I had gigs going all the way into the next year that were canceled. But on the other hand, well, along with the faculty jazz quartet from UB, we've had a porch concert at my house just for the neighborhood, and just the response to it was so incredible. I mean, it was what, 3 weeks ago, and people are still coming up to me and saying, well, we enjoyed it so much, and we hope that you're going to do it again. And we were thinking about having, well, we may be here again, but at the other members' houses for their neighbors. This program has been, before the pandemic, we were actually going to high schools and doing clinics, and their bands would play for us and we'd play for them, and interact about it, talk about it. And it's been an interesting recruitment tool because we've gotten several over the years to come and check out the UB music department,
Thank you, and I hope you keep doing these live sort of concerts at other people's house. I think this is really great to get people interested and still enjoy the music. So I want to thank you very much for joining me today, Professor Caldwell. and best of luck to you on all your creative endeavors.
Well, it's really good talking with you. I feel that I have met a kindred spirit, you know.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
To close today's segment, would you mind sharing an excerpt of new piece that you have been working on?
Okay. I will. I guess it's as by way of explanation, it's not so new. I wrote it a long time ago, but I've been working on it. So
it's still new, yeah.
Yeah. So what's happening is new.